Hi, my name is Monika Bielka Vescovi, and I'm the founder of Napa Wine Class. We are launching a new series of tasting workshops exploring wine styles from all 17 AVAs of Napa Valley, focusing on how location and soil influences what ends up in your glass. Today, we begin with one of Napa's most distinctive mountain appellations, Atlas Peak. Atlas Peak Cabernet Sauvignon delivers elegance, power, and its shape, but high elevation vineyards and volcanic soils. Atlas Peak sits atop the Vaca mountain range, and its vineyards are planted in basalt-based volcanic soils. Basalt is a dense volcanic rock that weathers into well-draining, nutrient-poor soil. This forces the vine to struggle, resulting in smaller berries with intense concentration, thick skins, and elevated tannins. It also lends the wine its signature mineral edge, giving depth and definition to the fruit. But soils is only a part of the equation. Climate and elevation play a critical role. Vineyards here range from 1,200 to 2,600 feet above sea level, often sitting above the fog line. This means they receive more direct sunlight during the day, but benefit from cooler temperature, especially at night. The result? A longer growing season, slower ripening, a perfect balance of flavors, development, and acidity retention. So, this is the Atlas Peak wines I have prepared for our tasting today. And we're going to talk about systematic approach to wine tasting with WSET. So the first thing is the appearance. When we tilt the glass, we're going to see that the wine is opaque, and that points to that lower skin to juice ratio that we achieve in the higher elevation above the fog line, giving us more anthocyanins on one hand and higher pigmentation of the wine. This is the deep ruby color wine. This is 2021 vintage, so a lot of aromatics that I'm going to talk about, they're coming from still a youthful stage of this wine. So when we swallow the glass, the first thing that I'm focusing on is intensity of the aromas, which is pronounced. However, it is more focused on the herbal and the mineral edge, and then we see the blackberry, black cherry, black plum behind it. So this wine has more restrained fruit character on the nose. And from here, we're going to go to winemaking. So beautifully folded oak into this wine. We're talking about the delicate note of vanilla that is only enhancing the fruit. And let's taste it. When we taste, we want to focus on the tannins first. Tannins are firm, but they're extremely elegant, and they will need time to develop, yet they're showing fine grain structure. And with that, the next thing that I'm focusing on is acidity. Having a mountain fruit wine, I'm looking for the level of acidity that's coming from the diurnal range of temperature. And this wine has the perfect example of elevated acidity. I'm going to call it a medium plus acidity that's lifting the fruit and lifting the herbal components of this particular wine. The alcohol is high, however, it beautifully comes together with pronounced intensity of flavors and those firm tannins. Therefore, there's a lot of balance in this wine. And when we're talking about the balance, we're referring already to one of the parts of quality. When we're moving to quality, we're talking about the balance, length, intensity, and complexity of the wine. One of the other components of length is the length. Length is how the positive flavors are, how long they're staying in your mouth, how long can you recognize the positive flavors. And this wine has gorgeous long finish. So we're going to talk about the balance, the length. We're going to talk about the intensity. And as I mentioned on the nose, we had a pronounced intensity, and we do have a pronounced intensity on the palate as well. But within this point, we're also going to mention the typicity. And this is what's very special about this particular wine, because we have the classic components of the Atlas Peak and Mountain Fruit wine when we're talking about the restrained fruit character on the nose, leading with herbal notes and continued with the black fruit character, with a hint of floral. There's a beautiful hint of violets, also coming from that longer ripening season that we experience in Atlas Peak, and cooling influences. And with that, we're arriving at the complexity. The complexity of aromas is an important factor, and we want to look at the different assets of complexity. On a combination of those will allow us to assess it. So we see the floral notes, black fruit notes, the herbal notes. We'll also see the influence of the basalt soils with the mineral edge. And the next thing, moving from primary to secondary aroma characteristics, we're talking about the oak influence, but just that elegant edge of the vanilla and the charred oak that just lifts the aromas of this particular wine. When it comes to tertiaries, this is a fairly young wine. This is 2021, so we're yet to see development of the fruit in the future. But based on the flavor profile, we see that this is an outstanding wine, because we see the balance, length, intensity, and typicity, and complexity. So with all of that, when you taste the Atlas Peak wines, you want to really focus on the tannin structure, you want to focus on acidity structure, and you want to understand and taste that volcanic rock, the altitude, and the discipline of the mountain vineyards, which is reflected in every sip. Stay tuned as we come with other tastings of the other AVAs and explore all of the tasting profiles that Napa Valley has to offer, one glass at a time. Cheers, and until the next time.